0808-312-8618. Or if you so choose, you can text in your reactions, contributions, and comments to the show on the same number, 0808-312-8618. So that's the position of the leadership of the Senate. Now, what began in March as a disciplinary measure against an outspoken lawmaker has now snowballed into a test case of legislative authority, judicial oversight, and the right of elected representatives in a democracy. Now you see why that we operate in Nigeria means the people come first. And in this case, this lady has been elected by the people of Kogi North Central to represent their interests in the hollow chamber of the Senate. And yet, those people are being denied representation. In Senate acknowledged receipt of Natasha's letter of intent to resume, but the clerk stressed that her suspension is sub judice, decides her case, no matter how long. To fully understand the impulse, it is important to trace the events leading to this moment, right? So, March 6, 2025, the Senate suspends Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for oversight powers. March 12, 2025, Natasha challenges the suspension at the Federal High Court, Abuja, arguing it violates her constitutional mandate and disenfranchises her constituents. April 2025, civil society legislative privilege. June 2025, the Federal High Court rules in favor of the Sija division, asking for the ruling to be overturned. September 4th, 2025, she notifies the Senate of her plan to resume, insisting her 6-month suspension has expired. September 7th, 2025, the Senate rejects her notice, insisting her suspension remains until the court rules. So, forced into an indefinite exclusion pending judicial intervention. Senate suspend an elected lawmaker for 6 months, thereby denying constitution. This is a big question. Legal luminary to look at the legal implications of of this development, because we must begin to ask salient questions when developments like this happen. Now, let's check out the reactions of some legal experts. Now, the pro-Senate view argues that the Senate, as a self-regulating body, has the constitutional power to discipline its members and enforce standing order. These are unconstitutional. Now, let's not forget, I think it was Justice Binta Nyako that did say that the 6 months denying her 6 months of denying her constituents adequate a reputable judge, or in the person of a Binta Nyako. I hope I'm correct about that judge, that has said that 6 months is overreaching by the Senate, and emphasize the need for the people of Kogi Central to be bluntly. The Supreme Court has held in past cases that long suspensions of lawmakers violate the principle of representative democracy. Again, it brings me back to that question. That not punish constituents for the action of their senator. Not punish constituents for the action of their senator. She has been elected, and her people, by virtue of voting for her, demanded that she represents their interest. And let's be honest, it has been said that the suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is not just about the issue of disregard for their whatever rules, but there is more to it, with concerns to certain projects in her state, certain capital projects that naturally should contribute to the GDP and the well-being of our economy and an extent to whatever their regulation, therefore appears unusually harsh and raises red flags about a country that says and a government that claims to be women friendly, claiming to want to appoint women to places of government, of public office and all of that. They forget that she's a symbol of women's resilience in Nigerian politics. Rising from a career as a lawyer and activist, she became one of the very few women to break into the male-dominated Senate. Her suspension has thus triggered debates about whether women in politics face double standards. Would a male senator with the same office have faced a similar fate? I mean, let's ask ourselves that question. A woman's rights coalition puts it, in this manner. Silencing Natasha is silencing millions of Nigerian women watching her break barriers. The Natasha saga also has implications for the 2027 general elections. I mean, they're not looking at the big picture. They're not looking at the holistic picture. Because if they are, they probably would have sat down and thought and rethink their strategy. Because if she wins at the Court of Appeal, Natasha will emerge stronger with a reputation as a fighter who cannot be silenced. If she loses, it could embolden Senate leadership to use suspension more aggressively against dissenting voices in the Senate. Either way, the case will shape how Nigerians perceive legislative fairness and the balance of power in the nation's capital, Abuja. As it stands, Natasha's fate lies with the Court of Appeal. If the court rules in her favor, she could return to the Senate with full rights, possibly even reclaiming lost entitlements. If not, her suspension could last beyond 6 months, effectively silencing her until the end of 2025. For now, she remains in political limbo, suspended, yet still the elected senator of Kogi Central. The battle over Natasha Uduaghan's suspension is more than a personal struggle. It is a litmus test for Nigeria's supposed democracy. Now, will the courts affirm the right of elected representatives and their constituents? Well, we will wait and see if that will happen. And of course, this again, by extension, will allow Nigerians to also critically look at the judiciary. Yes, will the legislative discipline be allowed to override constitutional mandate, which is a critical question? These are all the questions that are making the rounds as we discuss the Senator Natasha's prolonged suspension. Yes, because remember, at the heart of Natasha's battle is a constitutional question, which is, can the Senate suspend an elected lawmaker for 6 months, thereby denying her constituents representation? This is a constitutional mandate. Don't forget. Will the courts affirm the rights of elected representatives and their constituents? Because as I have highlighted, this will set a precedent. And thirdly, will legislative discipline be allowed to override constitutional mandate? Because whichever way we look at this man as a person, it's not about Natasha as a person. It is more about constitutional mandates. It is more about the people's vote, letting the people's vote count. So until the Court of Appeal delivers judgment, Natasha remains outside the Red Chamber and her people remain without a voice. But one thing is certain, this case will end of representation in Nigeria's Fourth Republic. Definitely, that is how this matter will eventually end, whichever way they choose to look at it, however they choose to play their politics, right? That is just the truth about it. Just to remind you, in a landmark legal development that reverberated across Nigeria's political landscape. The Abuja division of the Court of Appeal on May 21, 2025 struck out two critical motions filed by Senate President Godswill Akpabio against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Now, this ruling not only signaled a significant legal victory for the embattled Kogi central lawmaker, but also delivered a blow to Akpabio's bid to leverage the Senate's disciplinary processes against a perceived political opponent. To add salt to injury, the court awarded a cost of 100,000 naira against Akpabio, payable to Senator Natasha. Right? Now, this legal tussle stems from a deepening rift within Nigeria's National Assembly that has been brewed since early 2025, underscoring broader tension around parliamentary discipline, political rivalry, and the evolving gender dynamics of Nigerian politics. So it's the picture and the dynamics are, that's why for me, I'm wondering, okay, I think we have a caller joining who wants to join us on the show. Hello? Hello, good morning. Just give me a second and we'll connect you. As it were. Yes, just a minute. Let me get you connected. Okay, hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
Obed, it's been ages. How are you doing?
Yeah, got some age.
Yes, I'm very good. I'm very good. Where are you reaching us from, Obed?
Yeah, Rufai area.
Okay, hi, Gwarimpa, this Wednesday morning.
His group is not ready today, and it's a busy day.
All right. So, Obed, what's your take on today's conversation? We are looking at
Quite unfortunate. That call themselves lawmakers.
Yes.
They are even the same people that are breaking the laws. In court. So Natasha should return back to the house to represent her, remind her of representing. And see, the Senate said that we need to vote for the president of the Supreme Court. So, okay, I have said on this platform that it is easier to do the right thing than doing the wrong thing. Come back and resume the wrong thing. Come back and resume all this drama or all this kind of shit phone or whatever they are doing to the country of ours.
Yes.
Will not come to court.
True.
And we don't know how to debate. Because that debate or whatever they do, they not even interesting. They forget it. They are things that they should do. What they hate is regime. Don't use the word to do. What they hate is regime. Don't use the word to do regime. It's not to be compared. See, the house of Senate or House of Bread is meant for debating. In presentation or whoever that is representing whatever zone or constituency, you come out and present the case. And they should debate. At least you and I, we watch the CNN, we watch Akpoti, we see how what the Senate in the US or whatever that we say that we mirror.
Yes.
We see how people debate. We see how senators in the UK.
Yes.
There's nothing like hatred. There's nothing like. But what matters most is for our citizens. That is why we are here. But Nigeria's case, I don't know the best identity to qualify it. Just within this week or last week, I read it on news setting or whatever that we have made the presidency says Nigeria has made its revenue target.
Yes. By as of August.
A day later or 2 days later, there was another that says Nigeria wants to borrow $1.79 billion
Yes, from the World Bank.
from the World Bank. So what are we just where the two news now. Nigeria has met its revenue target. Day later or 2 years later, Nigeria wants to borrow
1.7
billion. So, is there any truth there?
Okay. So
People in the media should do us a favor. We the common citizens. People should be interrogating these people in city. That are we actually practicing democracy? All this money that has been borrowed over again. What are people using it for?
yeah.
On this road, how much was expended on it? What was the bidding? Who is the contractor? What is the percentage that we completed? Those are critical questions that should be asked. Okay, if you borrow this now, how are we going to
Pay back.
what project are we going to tie this money to? These are the questions that you people in the media should be asking them. You know that former regime borrowed this. What did they use it for? No, that is not the case. This is your regime now. What are you going to use this money? That is the question. And this people should be asking this guy. Because it's going to continue. It will not stop. It's not going to stop.
So you're saying that that under this administration will keep borrowing. Senator Dino Melaye did say that if we're not careful, by the end of 2025, Nigeria's debt profile will rise to about 200 trillion naira. As it stands right now, Nigeria's debt profile stands at 147 point let's just say 147 trillion naira, which is just about 97 billion US dollars.
The money, the remaining balance there is not so hard now. With how many billions of dollars, they have increasing it already now. With little millions of dollars, in just this to make it 200 trillion. Now, that is no money. That is, you know what he's talking about. He was not there. So you know what he's talking about. He was one there. So you know what he do there. So Dino is not lying. He knows what he's doing, what he said. You people in the media can interrogate him. He has all that to do.
Okay. Thank you.
You and I.
Yeah.
So people should interrogate Dino. How did they arrive at that because you know how to pose such questions. I think. Yes. So people should be doing all the favor. Because we, common citizens, we are struggling.
Yeah.
We are not traveling from here to Benin. A journey that's supposed to have taken you 6 hours is taking over 13 hours. And again, the bad guys on the road, you'll be praying. You're stopping God in heaven. God, I want to travel. I want to travel. Please grant me safe journey. Which is not the of God. That has given us that is what government should be doing. That is what other nations in the world do for their citizens. That's hereby, although citizens don't struggle.
Thank you so much. On FM.
Thank you, bro. Have a good day.
You too. On FM.
Thank you, bro. Have a good day.
You too. Obed reaching us all the way from Guarimpa. Obed reaching us all the way from Guarimpa, right here in the borrowing trend persists. The former lawmaker questioned the rationale behind $1 billion US dollars in external. 3 facts have been established. Questions. Now, you can also be part of the conversation. Don't forget the studio line is live and active. It's 0808-312-8618. 0808-312-8618. That's the studio line. You can also be part of the conversation. We are looking at Senator Natasha. So, Will legislative discipline, which is even a far lower law, yes, be allowed to call 0808-312-8618. That is the straight to the point, right? So that we can get as much callers as possible. Gained public attention following a heated altercation between the two on the floor of the Senate on February 20th, 2025. Eyewitness legislative bias, disrespect, and alleged gender-based intimidation. Now, in response to the confrontation, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions, widely seen by many analysts as being under the firm influence of the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, swiftly summoned Senator Natasha for questioning. Many political fused the history of legal activism fought back by taking the matter to court. Her legal team sought and obtained an injunction from the Federal High Court in Abuja, restraining the Senate from conducting any disciplinary proceedings against her pending the determination of the substantive suit. The injunction effectively stopped Akpabio's Senate from pursuing punitive measures that could potentially lead to suspension or other sanctions against her. In response, the Federal High Court's ruling, Akpabio's legal team quickly moved to file two motions at the Court of Appeal on March 20 and March 25th, respectively. These motions were designed to obtain leave to appeal the Federal High Court's injunction on several procedural grounds. Specifically, the Senate President asked the appellate court for 1. An extension of time to seek leave to appeal. 2. Leave to appeal on grounds of mixed law and fact. 3. Extension of time to file a formal notice of appeal. And 4. A stay of proceedings at the Federal High Court pending the determination of his proposed appeal. Now, these filings were seen by leaks deployed by political power players seeking to overturn unfavorable lower court rulings. However, it soon became apparent that Akpabio's legal strategy lacked sufficient traction, particularly as Natasha's legal team mounted a formidable defense backed by strong procedural alignments. Right? Now, at the hearing on May 21, 2025, a three-man panel of the Court of Appeal led by Justice Haman Baka with Justice Ade Bukola Bajoko and Okon E. Abang concurring delivered the ruling that set a new precedent for internal legislative disputes brought before Nigerian courts. Interestingly, Akpabio's legal counsel, perhaps realizing the legal futility of continuing the motion, appealed to formally withdraw both applications. The court granted this request, but not without consequence. In a move that underscored the judicial system's increasing intolerance for frivolous or tactical litigation by powerful politicians, the appellate court ordered Akpabio to pay 100,000 naira to Natasha as cost. Further, the court directed the appeal under which the motion was filed be deleted from its records, effectively erasing the Senate President's appeal attempt from the docket. Now, this order represents more than just a procedural decision. It signifies the judicial branch's resolve to discourage manipulation of court proceedings by political heavyweights. While the award of 100,000 naira in cost might seem modest by legal standards, its symbolic weight cannot be overstated. For Senator Natasha, this ruling was more than just a procedural victory. It was a personal vindication and a political triumph. Coming against the backdrop of increasing tension between gender power structures within Nigerian politics, the ruling affirmed her right to fair treatment and, of course, access to judiciary despite pressure from political adversaries. For Akpabio, this was an embarrassing episode, especially given his role as the nation's third most powerful official. Now, coming barely a week after Akpabio was pictured alongside top officials at the controversial renaming of the Abuja International Conference Center after President Bola Tinubu, The loss was political distraction that weakened his standing amongst both supporters and opponents. Moreover, the case revealed a broader political reality. The once predictable machinery of legislative intimidation is increasingly being challenged in Nigeria's evolving democratic environment. Maybe that a female opposition senator from a minority party could successfully take on the Senate president at the courts and win, and is a statement to how Nigeria's supposed democratic culture, despite its many flaws, continues to grow more robust. Now, the ruling also reignited important debates about the constitutional boundaries between the judiciary and the legislature in Nigeria. Critics aligned with Akpabio have argued that internal parliamentary discipline should be immune from judicial intervention, citing the principle of legislative autonomy. On the other hand, civil rights advocates and many constitutional scholars argue that where legislative processes are abused for political persecution or violate fundamental rights, the judiciary not only has the right but the duty to intervene. The Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal in these cases have both sided with the latter interpretation. Now, according to legal experts, this decision adds to a growing body of case law affirming that even the sacred halls of legislative privilege cannot shield unethical or unlawful political conduct from judicial scrutiny. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's victory at the Court of Appeal further consolidates her growing political stature. Once considered a political underdog, especially in the traditionally male-dominated arena of Kogi politics, Natasha has gradually carved out a national reputation as a defiant, articulate, and legal-savvy politician. Her past legal battles, including her successful challenge against attempts to truncate her senatorial candidacy, have earned her admiration within Nigeria's civil and political space. Many now see her as a potential gubernatorial contender in Kogi State or even a future candidate for higher national office. Her triumph over Akpabio not only bolstered her personal brand but sent a broader signal that Nigerian women in politics can leverage legal and institutional tools to counter patriarchal political systems. For Akpabio, Senate President and a former governor of Akwa Ibom State, this courtroom loss could be interpreted in two contrasting ways. First, it reveals the limit of his influence beyond the legislative chamber. As Senate President, Akpabio has shown an ability to consolidate Senate support on national issues, especially controversial ones like budget approvals and federal appointments. Yet, his seeming overreach in attempting to deploy Senate disciplinary structure against Natasha and the ensuing legal defeat may embolden critics who view his leadership as imperious or politically overbearing. Secondly, and more dangerously, for his long-term prospects, this setback fuels the narrative of growing disconnect between the National Assembly's leadership and Nigeria's increasing assertive civil society. His alignment with controversial political decisions, including defending the 39 billion naira Abuja Conference Center renovation amid national economic hardship, may weaken his approval among key constituencies. Nonetheless, Akpabio remains a formidable figure, especially with the backing of powerful blocs within the ruling APC. Whether this defeat marks the beginning of a political decline or just a temporal stumble will depend largely on his ability to recalibrate his leadership approach in the coming months. The Natasha Akpabio legal clash is also significant as part of the broader story of Nigerian democratic evolution. For decades, Nigeria's political elites have often weaponized legislative structures to suppress dissent within party ranks or marginalize disruptive voices. This incident demonstrates that courts, particularly with excessive rulings like this one, are increasingly willing to act as guardians of democratic fairness. Moreover, the political optics of a powerful Senate president being humbled by a single opposition senator in one court sends a powerful message to younger politicians, women, and civil society activists. The pathways to justice, though assiduous, are opening up. While this ruling is decisive concerning the particular motions struck out, it does not necessarily mark the end of hostilities between Natasha and Akpabio, as we have seen. Political insiders suggest that other attempts may yet emerge, either through internal Senate mechanisms, as we have seen, or fresh legal processes to counter Senator Natasha's growing influence. However, with this recent victory, Natasha's legal team has now demonstrated their capacity to effectively counter such maneuvers. Unless Akpabio recalibrates his approach, potentially seeking reconciliation or adopting a more inclusive leadership style, he risks becoming entangled in further legal embarrassments, especially as Nigeria edges closer to the heated political contest of the 2027 general elections. In the wider scheme of Nigeria's turbulent political landscape, the May 21, 2025 ruling of the Court of Appeal is a symbolic and substantive victory for the rule of law. It underscores the judiciary's potential role as an equalizing force in the perennial struggle between entrenched power brokers and emerging political challengers. For Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, this victory is yet another milestone in her steady climb as one of Nigeria's most watched political figures. For Akpabio, on the other hand, it's a bruising but instructive defeat that may yet shape his political strategy moving forward. Ultimately, Nigeria's democracy is better for it. The struggle for fairness in governance, gender representation, and institutional independence continues, and the courts remain central to that evolving story. So, that's where we are. As far as, of course, the prolonged suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan is concerned. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has urged the lawmaker representing Kogi Central Senatorial District, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, to prepare to resume her duties in the Senate. In a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunaba, the party condemned the attempt by the clerk of the National Assembly to bar Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan from resuming her role following the 6-month suspension imposed on her by the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio. The PDP described the action as a calculated attempt orchestrated by the Senator Akpabio-led All Progressive Congress APC Senate leadership to abridge the right of representation of the people of Kogi Central Senatorial District and deny them a voice at the nation's highest lawmaking body. So, as far as the PDP is concerned, they are backing their senator and they are ready to give her all the push. Good governance advocate Aisha Yusuf yesterday, Tuesday, called on Senate President Godswill Akpabio over the continued suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Yusufu, in a post on X, wrote, "It is time to ask Akpabio, waiting." Her comment followed the decision of the National Assembly to reject Akpoti-Uduaghan's plan to resume legislative duty. It was reported that a letter dated September 4, 2025 and signed by the acting clerk to the National Assembly, Dr. Yahaya Danzaria, the Senate said the senator's 6-month suspension remains in force pending the outcome of a Court of Appeal case she instituted against the upper chamber. The letter stated that although Akpoti-Uduaghan notified the Senate of her plan to resume on September 4th, the suspension actually took effect on March 6, 2025. The Senate maintained that since the matter is before the Court of Appeal, no administrative action would be taken until a verdict is delivered. Akpoti-Uduaghan was suspended on March 6, 2025 for alleged insubordination after she refused to accept a change of her designated seat during plenary. So that ends it for today's edition of The Arena. Like I said, tomorrow we could have a sequel tomorrow if I'm able to bring in 1 or 2 legal luminaries. Let us look at the legal implications. Remember, I said that at the heart of Natasha's battle is a constitutional question. Can the Senate suspend an elected lawmaker for 6 months, thereby denying constituents representation? And of course, will the court affirm the rights of elected representatives and their constituents? And will legislative discipline be allowed to overrule constitutional mandate? So those are the questions we will discuss hopefully tomorrow.